Hi. Before we start this summary, we have an absolute request and favor to ask you if in any ways my channel has helped you in any way. Please, could you support and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notification whenever new summary is uploaded. Part 1, The Foundation of the Rich Life, Chapter 1, Optimize Your Credit Cards. The strategy, stop being a victim and start playing the game. Ramit Sethi begins his 6-week program by tackling the most polarizing tool in the financial shed, the credit card. While most financial gurus tell you to snip your cards into pieces, Ramit argues that for the conscious spender, a credit card is a powerful asset that provides free travel, purchase protection, and a massive boost to your credit score, provided you know how to play the game. The psychology of credit. Most people view credit cards through the lens of fear or guilt. Ramit flips this, explaining that credit is essentially a reputation score. A high credit score, 750 plus, is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime because it determines the interest rates on your mortgage, your car loans, and even your insurance premiums. The lethal trap of credit cards isn't the card itself. It's the annual percentage rate, APR. Ramit explains that if you carry a balance, the compound interest works against you with terrifying efficiency. However, if you pay your bill in full every month, the APR is irrelevant because you pay $0 in interest while reaping all the rewards. Actionable steps. The credit cleanup. 1. Get your score. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Ramit insists on checking your FICO score and your credit report for errors. 2. The underutilization rule. 30% of your credit score is based on utilization. How much of your available credit you are using. If you have a $5,000 limit and spend $4,000, your score drops. Ramit suggests keeping this under 30% or even 10%. 3. Negotiate your fees. Ramit provides verbatim scripts. He suggests calling your bank and saying, "I've been a customer for 5 years and I noticed a $75 annual fee. I'd like to have this waived." If they say no, you ask to speak to a supervisor. Usually they yield. 4. Automatic payments. This is the first step toward the invisible rich life. Set up your credit card to automatically pay the full balance from your checking account every month. This eliminates the risk of late fees and credit dings. The big win mentality. Ramit emphasizes big wins over small wins. Instead of worrying about a $3 latte, Chapter 1 focuses on the big win of a high credit score. On a $300,000 mortgage, the difference between a 4% and a 5% interest rate is over $60,000. That is more lattes than you could drink in 3 lifetimes. What I have learned. I have learned that credit cards are not a debt trap unless you are undisciplined. They are actually a financial leverage tool. The most important lesson here is that the financial system is designed to profit from the lazy and the uninformed. By setting up a few simple automations and making a few 5-minute phone calls to negotiate fees, I can put myself in the top 1% of credit users. I also realize that my credit score is one of the most valuable financial assets I own, and protecting it is more important than saving a few dollars on a daily coffee. Disclaimer: this What I Have Learned section is based on my own perspective and interpretation of the material. Your takeaways or the author's intent may differ entirely. Chapter 2, Beat the Banks, the Strategy, High-Interest Savings and No-Fee Checking. In Chapter 2, Ramit goes to war with big banks, like Wells Fargo or Chase. He argues that these institutions rely on inertia, the fact that most people are too lazy to switch banks, to charge outrageous fees and offer pathetic interest rates. The anatomy of a perfect banking setup. Ramit advocates for a barbell system consisting of 2 distinct types of accounts. 1. The checking account, the hub. This is where your paycheck lands. It should have 0 fees and 0 minimums. Think of it as a distribution center. 2. The high-yield savings account, the growth engine. This is where your midterm money sits for a house, a wedding, or an emergency. It should be at an online bank like Ally, Marcus, or Schwab that offers 10x to 20x the interest of a traditional bank. Why online banks? Ramit explains that brick-and-mortar banks have massive overhead costs, buildings, tellers, electricity. They pass those costs to you via lower interest rates. Online banks don't have those costs, so they pay you more. While 0.0% or 1.0% interest might not seem like much, it is the difference between your money losing value to inflation and your money maintaining its purchasing power. The power of sub-savings accounts. One of Ramit's most practical tips is the use of sub-savings accounts. Most people have one big savings bucket. Ramit suggests naming your accounts based on your goals. Emergency fund, 3-6 months of expenses. Trip to Italy, 2026. Down payment for house. New puppy fund. Psychologically, it is much harder to steal money from an account labeled Trip to Italy than it is from an account labeled Savings. Negotiating with banks. Just like with credit cards, Ramit provides scripts to get out of fees. If you get hit with an overdraft fee, call them. Script, oh, I see I was charged an overdraft fee. I've been a loyal customer and I'd like to have this waived. Banks would rather waive a $35 fee than lose a customer who might eventually take out a mortgage with them. What I have learned. I have learned that my bank is a service provider, not a permanent partner. If they aren't serving me, I owe them zero loyalty. The concept of sub-savings accounts changed my view of saving from a sacrifice into an exciting countdown toward my goals. I also learned that big banks are essentially lazy taxes. If you stay with a bank that charges you to access your own money, you are paying a tax for not spending 20 minutes to open an online account. Automation starts here. By linking my checking and savings, I create a seamless flow that requires no monthly effort. Part 2. The Engine of Wealth, Chapter 3, Get Ready to Invest the Strategy, Open Your 401k and Roth IRA. In Chapter 3, Ramit Sethi moves from defensive finance, fees and banks, to offensive finance. He argues that nobody ever got rich by just saving money in a bank account. Because of inflation, the silent killer of purchasing power, money sitting in a savings account, it actually loses value over time. So, to be rich, you must invest. The ladder of personal finance. Ramit introduces a specific hierarchy for where your next dollar should go. This is the most critical part of the 6-week program. 1. The 401k match, Step 1. If your employer offers a match, e.g., they match up to 5% of your salary, you must contribute enough to get the full match. This is a 100% return on investment instantly. No stock or bond in the world can guarantee that. Ramit calls this free money and insists that failing to take it is the biggest financial blunder a worker can make. 2. Credit card debt. Step 2. If you have high interest debt, pay it off before moving further. Investing while paying 19% interest on a credit card is like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. 3. The Roth IRA, Step 3. This is a tax-advantaged retirement account you open yourself at a brokerage like Vanguard or Fidelity. You contribute after-tax money, but the money grows tax-free. And when you withdraw it at age 59.5, you pay zero taxes on the gains. If you invest $5,000 a year and it grows to $500,000, that entire $500,000 is yours. 4. The 401k max out, Step 4. Once your Roth IRA is maxed, go back and finish filling your 401k to lower your taxable income. The myth of waiting until you're older. Ramit uses the power of IP and NT to show that time is more important than the amount invested. He shares the story of Smart Sally and Dumb Dan. Sally invests from age 25 to 35 and then stops. Dan starts at 35 and invests until he's 65. Even though Dan invested for 20 years longer, Sally ends up with more money because her investments had an extra decade to compound. Overcoming analysis paralysis. Most people don't invest because they are afraid of making a mistake. Ramit's advice is, it is better to be 80% right than 0% right. You don't need to be a hedge fund manager. You just need to get the money into the accounts and let the market do the work. What I have learned. I have learned that investing is not about picking stocks or watching CNBC. It is about following a logical sequence of accounts. The 401k match is the closest thing to a free lunch in the world. I also realized that my greatest asset isn't my salary, it's my time. Every year I wait to start investing is a year of compound interest I can never get back. I learned that the tax-free nature of the Roth IRA makes it a legal cheat code for building wealth that the government can't touch later in life. Chapter 4, Conscious Spending, the Strategy. Buy what you love, cut what you don't. Chapter 4 is the heart of Ramit's philosophy and is the most popular section of the book. He throws out the concept of a budget, which he views as a restrictive, guilt-inducing tool that doesn't work. Instead, he introduces the conscious spending plan, the money dials concept. Ramit asks, what do you love spending money on? For some, it's health/fitness. For others, it's convenience, travel, or luxury clothing. These are your money dials. The strategy: turn the dial up to the maximum on the things you love. Spend extravagantly on them. The trade-off: to afford that, you must ruthlessly cut costs on the things you don't care about. If you don't care about cars, drive a 10-year-old Toyota and feel zero shame. If you love fine dining, spend $5,000 a year on it and feel zero guilt because you have cut your spending elsewhere. The 4 buckets of spending, Ramit breaks down exactly where your monthly take-home pay should go. Category: recommended percentage, fixed costs, rent, utilities, debt, groceries, 50%, 60%. Investments: Roth IRA, 401k, 10%. Savings goals: vacations, emergency fund, 5%. 10% guilt-free spending, eating out, movies, hobbies, 20%, 35%. The genius of this plan is that it builds in guilt-free spending. If you have handled your fixed costs and your future self investing, you are allowed to spend the remaining 20 to 35% on whatever you want without checking your bank account every 5 minutes. The 60% solution: Ramit points out that most people struggle because their fixed costs are too high, usually 75% or more. They buy too much house or a car they can't afford. By keeping fixed costs at 50 to 60%, you create a buffer that allows you to handle life's surprises and still enjoy your day-to-day life. How to cut costs without being cheap. Ramit distinguishes between being cheap and being frugal. Cheap: trying to get the lowest price on everything, regardless of value or the feelings of others, in reality, not tipping. Frugal/conscious: value-based spending. You spend heavily on value and cut everything else. He provides scripts for calling service providers, insurance, internet, to lower monthly tickets, which can save $100, $200 a month with a 15-minute phone call. What I have learned. I have learned that I have the permission to spend money on things that make me happy, provided I have a system in place first. This was a massive psychological shift for me. I realized that the latte factor, the idea that small purchases make you poor, is a lie. It's the big wins, housing, investment rates that matter. I learned that conscious spending is about saying no to the things I only kind of want, so I can say a big yes to the things I truly love. Part 4, The Automatic Engine and the Truth About Markets, Chapter 5. Save While Sleeping, the Strategy, the Power of Automation. In Chapter 5, Ramit Sethi introduces the concept that makes the entire system sustainable: automation. He argues that the primary reason people fail with money is not a lack of intelligence, but a reliance on willpower. Human willpower is a finite resource. Eventually, you will have a bad day, a stressful week, or a tempting sale, and you will forget to move money into your savings or pay a bill. The invisible money machine. Ramit details how to link all the accounts we've discussed, checking, savings, credit cards, and investment accounts, into a self-regulating closed-loop system. The goal is to spend less than 90 minutes a month managing your finances. The workflow of the system. 1. The paycheck, the trigger. Your salary is direct deposited into your checking account. 2. The automatic off-the-top moves. Before you even see the money, your 401k contribution is deducted. 3. The mid-month transfer. About 5 days after your paycheck, your checking account automatically sends a fixed amount to your Roth IRA and your high-yield savings account. 4. Automatic bill pay. All fixed costs, utilities, rent, mortgage, internet, are paid automatically via your credit card to earn points, or via ACH transfer from checking. 5. The final tally. Your credit card is set to full balance auto pay from your checking account at the end of the month. The psychology of zero effort. By setting this up, you change your relationship with money. You no longer have to decide to be responsible. Responsibility is the default. If you look at your checking account and see $400 left, you know that $400 is truly yours to spend on whatever you want because your bills are paid, your savings are funded, and your retirement is growing. What I have learned. I have learned that being good with money is actually about being good at building systems. I realize that I have been wasting mental energy every month worrying if I paid a bill or if I saved enough. By automating the flow, I have effectively fired myself from the job of bookkeeper and promoted myself to the job of CEO of my own life. I learned that the system doesn't just save time, it saves my sanity by removing the guilt associated with spending money. Chapter 6, The Myth of Financial Expertise. The Strategy, Why Index Funds Win and Experts Lose. In Chapter 6, Ramit takes a sledgehammer to the traditional financial services industry. He exposes the expert myth, the idea that you need a highly paid financial advisor or a hot stock picker to get rich. The math of failure. Ramit cites a staggering statistic. Over a 10-year period, 80% to 90% of professional active fund managers fail to beat the market, the S&P 500. Despite this, these managers charge expense ratios and management fees, often 1-2%. While 1% sounds small, Ramit shows how it can eat up over 25-30% of your total lifetime wealth due to the loss of compounding on that 1% every year. The solution: index funds and passive investing. Instead of trying to beat the market, Ramit advocates for buying the market. Index funds. These are low-cost funds that track a specific index like the S&P 500. You own a tiny slice of the 500 largest companies in America. Target date funds, the ultimate win. These are funds based on the year you plan to retire, an ID, target 2055. They automatically diversify your money between stocks and bonds and become more conservative as you get older. The boring path to wealth. The financial industry wants you to believe investing is complicated so they can charge you to simplify it. Ramit proves that a boring portfolio of 1 to 3 index funds will outperform almost any complex strategy over 30 years. What I have learned. I have learned that the more sophisticated an investment sounds, the more likely it is a way for someone else to make money off of me. I realize that the best way to win the investing game is to stop playing the game of stock picking and start playing the game of low-cost indexing. I learned that fees are the single greatest threat to my future wealth, and by choosing low-cost Vanguard or Fidelity funds, I am keeping hundreds of thousands of dollars in my own pocket rather than giving it to a guy in a suit. Part 4, Maintenance in the Big Life, Chapter 7. Investing isn't just for rich people, the strategy, maintaining your portfolio and ignoring the noise. In Chapter 7, Ramit addresses the messy middle of investing. Once the accounts are open and the automation is running, the greatest danger is no longer not starting. It is tinkering. Asset allocation, the real key to returns. Ramit explains that 90% of your investment returns are determined by your asset allocation, the mix of stocks versus bonds, not by the individual stocks you own. Stocks, high risk, high reward. Bonds, low risk, lower reward, used as a cushion. He teaches the concept of rebalancing. If your goal is 80% stocks and 20% bonds, and the stock market has a massive year, you might find yourself with 90% stocks. This makes your portfolio too risky. Rebalancing is the act of selling some stocks, buying low, selling high, and buying bonds to get back to your 80-20 target. The fear-greed cycle. Ramit spends a significant amount of time on the psychology of market crashes. He warns that when the media screams about a recession, your instinct will be to stop your automatic transfers or sell your funds. He argues that this is exactly when the rich life is built. A market crash is simply a sale on stocks. By maintaining your automation during a downturn, you are buying more shares at a lower price. What I have learned. I have learned that the hardest part of investing isn't the math. It's the discipline to do nothing when everyone else is panicking. I realize that my portfolio is like a bar of soap. The more I touch it and fix it, the smaller it gets. I learned that rebalancing is a counterintuitive but essential way to force myself to sell high and buy low without having to guess what the